Good morning, Vodafone. We are now live on Tuesday, the 11th of August. This time last week, I think the sound was not brilliant, for which I apologise. I don't think it's the equipment. We haven't had problems with any of the equipment on other occasions. I think it was a connection problem, which I'm afraid is out with my control. I hope it won't happen again, but do let me know if it's not working or it's not functioning well enough for you to get clear sound, which I think was the issue last time. So if you are now playing the replay and I haven't got round to or worked out, or one of us hasn't trimmed down the video, then this is the preamble and the class will begin in about 15 minutes. So you're welcome to sit with me, not with me, virtually with me, on the mat and use this time to prepare yourself for class. If you'd like to do that, your practice will certainly benefit from a little bit of grounding at the beginning. Or if you're in a bit of a rush and you only have the 30 minutes and you're not live, then fast forward 15 minutes to begin the class. Looks like there is somebody out there. So if you're able to test for sound and give me some indication of the feed quality, that would be really helpful. I'll just stay at the screen for a little bit longer in case there's any information coming at me through the chat box. Thank you very much. Sorry about last week. I think it was a connection difficulty rather than the equipment. So sometimes that happens, I guess, with so many people online. But thank you. Okay, then. So we have 10 minutes until the start of class. If you would like to gather yourselves, gather your equipment, and if you're able to spend some time sitting on your mat, just grounding yourself, then do that. I will be chattering away from time to time. Good morning, Vodafone. Class will begin in 5 minutes. So use this time if you're able to get yourself settled, to set up the equipment that you might need for the class. So today our sequence is going to involve a little bit of balancing in Warrior 3. So if you struggle to balance in Warrior 3, and it is a very challenging pose, then set yourself up so that the top end of your mat is quite near a wall. That's handy. So you've got something to lean on at the front of your mat, or just to have at your fingertips edge in case you need it. Or alternatively, if you like to use a couple of blocks when you're balancing in Warrior 3, then have those at the front of your mat. If you're needing to improvise, then anything that's going to provide a solid base for your hands at the front of your mat. You could have a chair and use the back of the chair, providing it's not going to tip, or the seat of the chair, or any piece of furniture that's handy and about the right height for you to rest your fingertips on. And you may not need it, but having it there may give you the confidence to go deeper into the pose. And in Warrior 3, so that's the one where you have your back leg out at a right angle. That's what you're aiming for. So your body, your torso is facing the floor, parallel to the floor, standing on one leg, obviously. The tendency is for the lifted leg to take the hip out slightly to the side. And you want to close that hip so that even though one leg is lifted, the hip is level, it's not tipping out. And that's really hard to do. I was looking at a class today, as I do. I had real people in the room, not virtual people. And even people who are really flexible and quite experienced yogis still struggling to draw that lifted leg, draw that hip down to the floor. So by having blocks, by having something to balance on, by having the option of just steadying yourself in the pose, you can be a little bit more adventurous about closing the hip. When you're freestanding and you close that hip, or you're working on the hip, then that might cause you to wobble quite a lot. But having something for your hands will take away that anxiety or that pressure. So that's where props are not to be considered as something to help you if you're not very good at a pose. And I've never used those words, but I know people do. They are things that help you to get the pose to another level. So it's not a sort of substandard pose if you're using blocks necessarily. It might be that you're actually getting something out of the pose that is completely impossible without the props, and the props just enable you to transition to a greater understanding of your pose. And I have talked about this before, but I think it's worth remembering that when we're talking about yoga poses, perfection is really unhelpful. An idea of perfection is unhelpful. Pictures of people doing beautiful poses are in many ways unhelpful because that's visual, it's focusing on the surface impression. And yoga teaches us to go deeper, and that our lives are not about our surface impressions. We go beneath the superficial and we find layer upon layer upon layer until we get to our true center. So we slough off all that superficiality. And the first layer to go, in a sense, is what it looks like. What I look like, what you look like. So, not that you would anyway, but don't look to me for a perfect pose. Because even if I was able to demonstrate the perfect pose, assuming there was such a thing, and I'm not, that wouldn't help you to find your pose. Copying is never going to help you to find a pose. Listening is. Listening at a very deep level, not just to what I'm saying and to what other people are saying, because there's lots and lots of information out there, but to what your body-mind complex is saying. what finding your way into a pose is telling you about your journey, your challenges, your difficulties, and your ability to overcome those difficulties. So I hope some of that makes sense. If it doesn't, just put it to one side. Maybe it'll make sense later, or maybe you'll never need it, in which case you can put it aside indefinitely. So we're going to begin class in a couple of minutes. Have your blocks to the top of your mat if you're using them. And just spend a couple of moments connecting to your breath. Sloughing off superficiality. Just letting go of everything that you don't need right now. And if that's difficult because you've just come from your desk and there's a myriad of things that you're going to need to solve at some point today, some problems, some issues, some difficulties, if you're finding it very difficult to let those go, then focus on the breath rather than trying to get your mind to clear itself, which is a very difficult thing, as anyone who's tried to go from 0 to 60 on a meditation retreat will tell you. Clearing the mind is very difficult. So if you're not able to clear your mind of detritus, then focus your mind on one thing and let that thing be your breath. So the thing that we have in common, you and me and all living creatures, is this life force, this prana, this energy. Inhaling deeply and exhaling fully. Find that rhythm. Follow your breath. If you've just joined us, welcome. We're beginning in an upright, seated or kneeling position with the breath. Follow the breath. Close your eyes if that's helpful to you. Breathing in through the nose and out through the nose. So we're going to practice Ujjayi breathing. Ujjayi means victory, and the victory about which we speak is the victory over the Kshipta Chitta, the restlessness of the mind. So to do Ujjayi breathing, we lightly constrict the throat, round about where your epiglottis is, at the base, the front of the neck. Just lightly constrict your airways there so you make a slight hissing sound, continuing to breathe in and out through the nose. But with this constriction of the throat. So you're aware of the breath, you're aware of the slight sound, you're aware of the slight constriction. And we use Ujjayi breath to focus the mind. We use it to help us to achieve calm, but also in difficult poses to help us to really get a grip of ourselves, to just focus on staying in the moment, staying in the posture, listening to the breath, listening to the body. And the breath helps us to know what our body is doing. So if your breath is labored, if you grunt, if you're holding your breath, then you're working too hard and you need to let yourself try an easier option or not work to such a demanding level. Yoga poses are a mixture of sthira and sukha, effort and ease. You should always feel challenged. But at the same time, find your way into a pose, find your sweet spot where it's not effortful. Next time you exhale, drop your chin onto your chest, and as you inhale, draw one ear towards your shoulder. Exhale, draw the chin to the chest, and inhale, drawing the ear to the shoulder. Keep going with this movement with your own breath. Inhaling as you open up the side of the neck, exhaling as you open up the back of the neck. So be careful here that it's not your shoulders that are drawing up to your ears. Your shoulders are staying down, and you're just gently stretching out the side of the neck. This might feel quite unpleasant if you've got a lot of tension at the base of the neck, but it's quite important. If you build up tension in this area, it can end up eventually turning into a headache, and we don't want that. So keep going with the movement, inhaling to the side, exhaling to the center. Make sure you've done an even number on each side. And then inhale, draw your crown away from your tailbone, lengthen your spine. Take your fingertips to the side of the mat, press lightly at the fingertips and open your collarbones, drawing your shoulder blades away from each other and feeling a little bit of space opening up at the side ribs and in the armpits. Take one set of fingers up to the ceiling, and as you exhale, take the arm overhead and come into a side stretch. Inhaling to the center and exhaling to the other side. So stretch the top fingers away from the hip, opening the chest. If you're flexible, you can draw your lower ribs forward and up towards the ceiling, and maybe take your eye gaze up to your inner elbow. If that's too much, if your neck doesn't like it, then continue to look down at the lower hand. Inhaling to the center and exhaling to the side. So again, you want to make sure you've done an even number on each side, finishing in the middle and floating the hands down to your sides. When you're ready, stretch your legs out in front. We're coming into Dandasana. Point and flex the feet a couple of times to release off the knees if you've been sitting cross-legged and that's challenging for you. Ease the buttocks back slightly so you can stretch out the hamstrings. Keep active in the feet. Lift your chest forward and your shoulders back to try and find height here. Draw your right leg in, press your foot into the floor and sit upright, sit tall. Then take your right foot across to the outside of your left thigh, press your right big toe into the mat. Option, keep the leg straight if your left knee is troubled in any way. Otherwise, bring the left foot round towards the right buttock and now try and draw your right buttock back down to the mat without letting your toes lift. That may not be possible. Do the best you can. Find your height here on an inhalation. As you exhale, we're going to twist to the right. Right fingers come behind, left hand comes across. Ardha Matsyendrasana, we've done this before. Press your palm away. Draw your shoulder blades together. Lift and lengthen your spine. Look over your right shoulder if you can. One more breath here. Inhale to the center and exhale. Stretch out the legs. We'll go on the other side, exactly the same. Draw in the left leg first. Excuse me. Find your height here, foot about a fist's width away from your thigh to find your length. And then take the foot across, left big toe into the mat. Flex through the foot, draw the right heel round to the left buttock, and then work on getting the buttock down at the same time as the big toe. Find your length, and then we rotate to the left. So again, you can either hug this knee into your chest, or you can take the elbow outside the thigh. Open your chest, draw the shoulder blades together, light with the fingers at the back. Don't lean on that back hand. Push into the fingertips to give you more length here. You want to be as tall as possible in the pose while maintaining quite a deep twist. Inhale to the center and exhale to release. So now we're going to do one of the Marichiasanas. Draw your right leg in towards you. Again, about a fist width apart, and sit as upright as you can. Stretch your right fingertips up to the ceiling, lift and lengthen, and as you exhale, draw your right hand towards your left foot. If you can't get anywhere near your foot, then take your right hand to the left calf Take your left hand behind and come, that's my shoulder pop in case you're worried. Come into an open twist to the left, drawing your shoulder blades together. Those of you who can easily reach your foot, think about taking that hand, winding it round your shin. See how my buttocks lifted? So I've got to get that back down again. And then maybe you can clasp your hands together in Ganesh Mudra, or here you can use a strap. Now, immediately my right knee wants to pop out to the side. So adjust the foot if necessary. Work on getting the buttock back down again and try and draw that knee in towards your tricep. Now take your open twist to the left. So you're either here in the bind, which is quite hard work, I think so, or you are here in an open twist, which can also be hard work. So as I said at the beginning, you find your mixture of effort and ease, not too much that you can't breathe, not too little that you're just kind of hanging out there, not working. Release the bind if you've got it, release the twist, gently release the leg, point and flex, and we'll go on the other side. Left foot comes in, same range of options, sitting up as tall as you can. Left arm floats up, reaches towards the right leg. Option, open twist here. That might be quite enough, thank you very much. Or if you're going for the bind, one side may be easier or harder than the other. Oh, and there it is, if you can find it. Maybe a strap is helpful here. So again, this leg would like to flop out to the side. That's going to make life much easier, but I'm going to resist, press my left seated bone down, press my left big toe down, and then find that open twist. So it's quite tough. One more breath here. Inhale, release the bind, release the twist, release the leg. Back in Dandasana. If you'd like to take a forward fold, float your arms up and over, find some length and fold. Take a couple of deep breaths here. And then restack the vertebrae, come back into your Dandasana, bring your feet in and come up to standing any way you can. So we'll begin with our feet hip distance apart. We'll take the arms up and over, palms face in, and we exhale, we come into Utkatasana, sometimes known as chair pose. I'll show you from the side. You want to keep working to tuck your tailbone under, and that's going to activate your lower abdominal muscles here. You want to be able to see your toes beyond your knees. Your knees do not want to be forward of your feet. That's going to put too much pressure in the joints. Take your bottom back and down, and that's really going to work your gluteal muscles. You'll feel it in the glutes, you'll feel it in the quads, but you shouldn't be feeling it in the knees. One option is to bring your hands to your heart center. Another option is to have the hands outstretched so that your inner arms are close to your ears. Keep working the tailbone back and down, and maybe you can take your gaze up to the ceiling. One more breath here. Inhale, press through the feet, press your palms together and come up to standing. Put your right thumb on top of your left, lift your arms up, and lift your heels up at the same time. So if you've got a very spongy mat, it's easier to come onto a hard surface, come onto the flat floor. At least I hope your floor is flat. Lift your heels, lift your eye gaze. And if that's not challenging enough for your core, look up to your fingertips, and then it will be. One more breath here. This is really working the muscles of your feet and ankles, as well as your balance and concentration and all your core. Exhale, eye gaze releases, heels release, hands released. One more round of Utkatasana. So again, your choice of hands at heart center or your hands outstretched. Keep working that tailbone under, sending the bottom back and down, lifting the chest up. Feel the glutes working, feel the quads working. Inhale and exhale, go deeper if you can without compromising your knees. And now come up to standing. Put your other thumb on top. Bring your toes and heels together, or you can keep the feet hip distance apart. That's slightly easier. And we're going to come back up into arrow pose, Akarnasana. Lifting your heels. Ignore the clicking ankles. Taking your eye gaze up if you can. Inhaling and exhaling deeply. Release your eye gaze, release your heels, release your hands. Okay. So standing at the front of your mat with your feet hip distance apart, take your right leg back into warrior one position. So your back foot is out at a 45-degree angle, but you want to square off your hips straight away. They'll start to open to the side. Square them off, hip, heads face forward. I know I go on and on and on about this, but it's important. Straighten your front leg. Draw your left hip, your front leg crease back and your back hip forward. Inhale, open your spine. Take your arms out to the sides, fold them behind, or you can bring them into reverse prayer. And as you exhale, come forward with a flat back, Parsvottanasana. Draw your crown away from your tailbone. Press down through all four corners of your front foot and particularly through the outer blade of your back foot. But keep leveling off the hips if you can. One more breath here. Press through the feet, come up with straight legs, and then bend the knees, bring the back foot in, take the other foot back, if that makes sense. So wherever you are, you're on the other leg. Same detail, you can release the hands now, give them a shake if you need to. Same detail with the hips. So bring your hands to your hips and check that your hip heads are level. Inhale, lift and lengthen. Take the arms behind if that suits you, or you can clasp them if you'd rather do that, bringing the palms together. Open the chest on an inhalation and bring your hands forward with a flat back. So this is going to challenge your front leg, particularly. If you're tight in the hamstrings, you'll find this really, really, challenging. You can float your hands down towards a pair of blocks. That's going to make it slightly easier, or you may be able to reach the floor. Otherwise, you're going to try and keep your back straight, level off your shoulders, level off your hips. Tuck your chin in to make sure the back of your head is long. One more breath here. If you can, press down through the feet, come up with straight legs, bend if you need to. Now we're all going to bend the legs and bring the back leg in. So stand in Tadasana at the front of your mat or off your mat if you think you might wobble, because we're going to balance. Have your blocks at the front of your mat or a piece of furniture that you can balance on if you think you might need it in Warrior 3. From Tadasana, place your weight into your right leg and lift your left knee. Set up your balance here. I'm going to move off my mat a little because it's a very spongy one. That's my excuse. From here, we're going to come into Warrior 3. So send that left foot back, moving with your breath, with control. So here it's very useful to have something to balance your hands on so that you can keep working on this hip, working on leveling the hips, working on tucking that left hip down so that we're not opening here. We're trying to get the lower back absolutely level if we can. Take a couple of breaths here, fire out through that back heel. And then from here, bend your front knee, drape your fingers down to the ground and come into a lunge. From your lunge, we're going to take a twist to the right. So you can press into your left hand and come into an open lunge here, or you can drop the back knee, or you can drop the back knee and pick up the back foot, but only if you're not on your kneecap here. You need to be on the fleshy bit of your knee, forward of your kneecap, wrapping your shoulders back and down and looking over to the right or up to the ceiling if you're here. Release the twist, power through that back heel, lift that back knee if you haven't already, and come up into crescent lunge, drawing your inner thighs together to give you stability here, powering through that back heel. From here, we're coming into Warrior 1, so bring the back heel to the ground, continue to work on squaring the hips, and open your chest, open your heart to the ceiling if you can, bending deeply into that front knee. Now we're going to lift that back heel again, float the hands down. So we're back in that low lunge. From low lunge, press both hands into the mat, and you're going to draw your front leg all the way back towards down dog, but we're going straight up into three-legged dog. So your right heel is powering up to the ceiling. Draw your chest towards your thighs.
Draw your left heel down towards the mat and square off the hips. Inhale here, sweep the back leg all the way through back into your lunge. Now, this is quite a tricky move. We do it all the time in our Surya Namaskar sequences, and some people struggle. So if you struggle, you can use this opportunity to have a practice using the momentum of the swing to help you. If that doesn't help you enough, use your hand to help you. If you don't like this move, you can miss it out. Otherwise, we're going to do one more. Inhale, three-legged dog. Exhale, sweep forward. And when you're in your lunge, from the lunge, we're going to float forward so that the weight's in the right leg, left leg is lifted, and now you're going to press down through the leg and find your warrior three again. With or without your props to hold on to, your blocks or your bit of furniture, square off the shoulders, square off the hips, and then float that leg down. Arms come up, exhale, hands to heart center. That's the sequence. We're going to do that on the other side now. Stand in Tadasana at the front of your mat. Have your props ready. Lift the right leg, square off the hips. Exhale, warrior three, square off the hips. Hold here if you can. Use whatever props you need to help you to work on the hips here. Bend the front knee, float the back leg down. We're coming into a lunge. Option, drop the back knee, pick up the back foot, look over your shoulder and stretch. If that's too much, stay here or here. Inhale, draw the hands down, press through your back foot, squeeze your inner thighs together, press through your front heel, and glide up to your crescent lunge. It's all in the transitions and in the breath. Find some depth here in this lunge. And then we're going to adjust the back heel and come into warrior one. Again, work on squaring the hips. Now open the chest and open the heart to the ceiling if you can. Inhale, frame the front foot, lift the back foot. There's that move again. Pressing through both hands, scoop that leg back into three-legged dog. Squaring off the hips. Draw it back into your lunge. You might need a few steps or a bit of adjustment. Do that move one more time. We'll miss it out if you're hating it. Three-legged dog, pressing down through the right heel, pressing up through the left heel, and then drawing it forward to the front of your mat. Transition, come back into your warrior three. Stretch your fingertips away, stretch your heel away. Use something to steady you so you can work on drawing that hip down, finding your best version of the pose. And then slide the back leg in, arms come up, bring them together and down to your heart center. Okay. So in a class, I would do that again, but we haven't got time today. So we're going to move on. Let's come down onto our hands and knees and take a little break in child's pose, just to allow the breath to settle. You can have your hands, your heels, and your brow to the floor. Or you can stretch your hands away in extended child's pose. So from here, come onto all fours and send your hips high up into downward facing dog. Heels come down, chest comes towards the thighs. Press into the mounds of your first finger and your thumb without allowing your triceps to spiral out. So draw them in, press your hips up and back, press your heels down. Inhale, come onto all fours and bring your forearms down to the mat. So here, you're going to clasp your forearms to give you the distance at which your elbows should be, and then keep your elbows firmly fixed there and clasp your hands. We're coming into dolphin. Important to know your head is not coming to the floor. Tuck your toes and lift up into what looks like downward facing dog, but now we've got bent elbows. From here, we're going to draw the weight forward and stack the hips, the shoulders, stack everything in a line at the front of the body, but we're not coming onto the head. So this is all about building strength in the shoulders, in the core, and in the triceps. dolphin pose. So if that's too much, stay in a forearm version of downward facing dog. Whichever pose you're in, you're really working on your triceps, on your forearms. You're building that strength in your upper body that will eventually, not today, lead us towards headstand. So if you've had a go at that and it's tough and you're having a rest, you want to have another go, I'll talk you through it again. You walk the feet forward so the toes become really light, but it's tough on the forearms and the core. We're not bringing the head down and we're not coming into headstand. We're just finding that strength and balance for the future. And then we're coming to the floor, Huey. Don't know about you, but it's very hot where I am. So take a few moments, resting your forehead on the backs of your hands. If you're breathing deeply, and as you inhale, your belly expands as it meets the resistance of the floor or the mat. Your back moves, so you're getting a gentle bit of a back bend without doing very much at all, just breathing and using gravity. When you're ready, push up onto your forearms again, but this time we're keeping the hips down on the mat. We're coming into Sphinx. So have your shoulder over your elbows, have your palms flat on the floor. Press into your fingertips as if you were clawing the mat towards you, as if you were dragging the mat towards you. It's not going to move, but you're going to actively feel like you're drawing it back towards you, and that's going to help you at the same time simultaneously draw your chest forward. Now you want to tuck your tailbone actively here so that the stretch is felt evenly through your back. It's not dumping into your lower back. Actively tucking your tailbone is going to help you open your chest more. Spread that curve, spread that load. So this is Sphinx. If you're doing it properly, it's quite a strong stretch on the forearms. And then exhale, make that pillow with your hands. Bring the other hand to the top this time. So you can stay with Sphinx if you're feeling that at all in your lower back, if you're not happy about back bends, if you're at all worried. Otherwise, if you want to try a slightly more advanced pose, then you can stretch your arms out from underneath you, draw them down towards the seams of your trousers. If you've not got seams, imagine them. Send the middle fingers down your trouser seams. And as you press the fingers away and draw the shoulder blades together, lift your chest off the mat. Keep your eye gaze down, the back of your neck long. Press into the tops of your feet and keep your hips down. Inhale here and exhale. Take a rest in Makarasana. One more option for those of you who feel you've not yet worked hard enough. If you've got one more option, this is it. Or take a lower option or take a rest. Same as before, the hands come down the trouser legs, but this time we press the big toes together and press the feet up away from the floor. So you want length in your body here. It doesn't matter how high you come, but what you want to do as you lift your body is to keep length from your crown to your toes. Tucking the tailbone. Hold here if you can. And when you've had enough, come back to that crocodile pose. Take several really deep breaths in your crocodile pose. And when you're ready, press into the hands, push yourself up into three-quarter plank, sit back on your heels and stretch out in extended child's pose to release off the lower back. Inhale, come forward onto all fours, cross the feet at the ankles, roll back over your feet and stretch the legs out in front. From here, make sure you've got your mat behind you, so adjust as much as you need to. Stretch the fingertips up and away into extended Dandasana. And now we're going to come down to the floor, but we're not going to bend the legs like we usually do. We're going to tuck the tailbone under, send it away. Oops, peeling my mat off the ground. I'm going to try and come down to the floor one vertebra at a time with the legs and the arms straight. Do what you can. Make that movement as slow as you can. When you get there, stretch your arms up and overhead. You can come straight into Shavasana, or you can try lifting your fingertips up to the ceiling as if somebody was gently drawing you up, and come into a forward fold here. So this is Gat Mat Paschimottanasana. If you want to keep going with a couple more rounds, you can do, but we are nearly out of time. So I'm going to suggest that we come into Shavasana. Allow your feet to flop open to the sides. Allow your hips to flop open to the sides. Take your hands away from the sides of the body, about 15 to 20 centimeters, and allow your palms to open to the sky. Backs of the hands soft on the floor. Shoulders soft on the floor, chest opens. Find softness in the torso with every breath. Find softness in the trunk with every breath. Find softness in the throat with every breath. Find softness in the face and neck with every breath. Let go. Let go of everything, good and bad. Let go your hold. Whether you're feeling pleased with yourself or frustrated with yourself, let go of them both. Let go of your attachment to the fruits of your labors. Let go of all karma phalam. Rest in the purity and completeness of your true self. Remember, whatever else anyone says about yoga, what the Bhagavad Gita says is that yoga is the journey of the self, through the self, to the self. If you're able to stay in this complete rested state, then make that your gift from yourself to yourself. And if you have to go, I wish you a wonderful day, and I hope you'll join me on Thursday morning at 7:30 or whenever you can. Namaste.